Nationwide News at 6 on Nationwide 90 FM, the most credible and trustworthy news station.
Good evening, I'm Nika Lewis with the news at 6. We begin with this nationwide exclusive. In a major development, political ombudsman Donna Parchment Brown is admitting she was the recipient of WhatsApp messages from Education Minister Senator Ruel Reid, in which he threatened to teach a high school principal a lesson who had publicly criticized an education ministry policy. In an interview with Nationwide News last night, the political ombudsman also admitted that she shared the WhatsApp exchanges with the education minister with the educators he was complaining about. Last month, the education minister stirred controversy by proposing a political code of conduct for educators amidst what he described as concerns of activism on the part of teachers and members of school boards. Tyrone Reed has the story.
Through a surrogate, a senior technical coordinator in the Education Ministry, Marlon Morgan, the Education Minister admitted to Nationwide News that in what he describes as private communication, he threatened to teach the principal of Belmont Academy, Ryan Simpson, a lesson after the school had publicly criticized a ministry policy.
As the designated representative from the Education Minister's office to speak on this matter, I can confirm that the minister, by way of a WhatsApp correspondence, did use the quote, "We need to treat this fellow a lesson." And I really appreciate, Tyrone, that in the ordinary use of language, people would see that as being a threatening message to convey, but that is absolutely not what was intended by the minister.
According to Mr. Morgan, the Education Minister could have chosen better words.
I would be insulting people's intelligence and indeed offending their sensibilities if I didn't acknowledge up front that in terms of a visceral reading of the phrase and people's everyday language interpretation of such a phrase, it would come across as a threat. The mission of the minister was to indicate clearly that there are channels that can be used to treat with a situation that he considers to be untenable, and that is precisely what he proceeded to do.
But just how did the minister's WhatsApp messages with the political ombudsman become available for public consumption? They were posted verbatim on Twitter late last month by chairman of the PNP's Education Commission, Elaine Foster Allen. When contacted, Mrs. Foster Allen told Nationwide News she would not reveal the source of her information. But political ombudsman Donna Parchment Brown told her news center she was the first to share the WhatsApp exchanges between her and Senator Reid.
The document looks like the summary that was produced on my computer, which was a summary of the communication between the Honorable Minister and myself. I've not seen them online. They look like the messages that were sent to me and my responses that I shared with one of the educators whose name was in the system.
You shared the messages that the minister sent to you with the educator?
I shared the communication with one of the people named, with a couple of the people named in the correspondence.
Mrs. Parchment Brown is insisting the WhatsApp messages she shared with the minister were not private and confidential. When quizzed about why the education minister would be saying to her, "We need to teach this fellow a lesson," this is what the political ombudsman had to say.
Well, let's put it this way. If those were my words, then you should call on the Governor General to release me of my position. But they are not my words. Other people may speak lightly or speak in ways that are inappropriate or not well considered, but they certainly are not attributable to any agreement or position that would have been taken.
And do you recall what your response was when he says, "Let's teach"?
I'm not even sure I responded to that one.
Tyrone Reed for Nationwide News.
In the meantime, Nationwide News also obtained copies of email exchanges between Minister Reid and a lecturer at the School of Education at the University of the West Indies UWI Mona campus, Dr. Canute Thompson. In his email, the minister wrote, quote, "I also question how you as a public officer are publicly criticizing government policy, the said ministry that is responsible for UWI. What staff orders permit this? I shall have to speak to Principal Weber," end quote. The minister copied that email to the principal of the UWI Mona campus, Professor Dale Weber. When our news center contacted Dr. Thompson, he said he interpreted the minister's words as threatening and an attempt to muzzle him in his capacity as an academic.
I thought it was an attempt to derail my continuing engagement in the activities in which I
that I've been pursuing in terms of commenting on government policy, criticizing and making suggestions. On the face of it, it's a threat, but I wasn't threatened by it, if I might put it that way. I think it's very unfortunate that the minister went down that road, and I have, as you would have seen, I have communicated that to the minister that it's a direction that ought not to be taken, and it's most unfortunate that he would have been doing so.
Dr. Canute Thompson, lecturer at the School of Education at the UWI Mona campus. Meanwhile, Mr. Marlon Morgan says the education minister was attempting to get the UWI principal to weigh in on what he deemed a critical matter.
But my understanding is that the education minister did pen that particular email with a view to draw Principal Weber's attention to essentially the standards of research and, of course, publication that should guide the work of an academic, certainly one who serves as the head of the Center for Educational Leadership at the University of the West Indies.
Marlon Morgan, Senior Technical Coordinator in the Education Ministry. In other news now, the attorney for the